Good morning and good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to my presentation today. Today I'll be talking about a multi-step rejuvenation protocol. And feel free to see my website at agelesspartners.com and my social media at agelesspartners for more information and to reach out anytime. And before I jump in too deep, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Nothing here is medical advice. Everything is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as advice in any way. And yes, so thank you. A bit about me. I'm the founder and CEO of Ageless Partners. And I used to work at multiple hedge funds over many years. And in 2019, I experienced the death of my grandparents, just like a lot of people do. And I thought to myself that if something could be done about that process, then we should as a society. So what is our core mission? It's to essentially reverse human aging across all 78 plus organs of the human body and the microbiome. And really, we want to take someone who's much older, say in their 90s, 95, 98, and bring them all the way back to 20. That's the long-term vision. In the near term, we really want to extend people's lifespan and health span and focus on getting them many more decades of quality life. So what is aging? Well, aging is the core driver of all age-related diseases. And so a lot of people think that when we talk about reversing aging or rejuvenation, that it's something radical, that it shouldn't be done or it can't be done. But when we actually look at what aging actually is, we are talking about biological aging, and we'll differentiate that between chronological aging, right? Chronological aging, 1 year of time passes and you're 1 year older. Not much you could do about that. Now, biological aging is a different process. This is the driver that moves you towards these diseases that you do not want: diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, sarcopenia, and so on. So it's really a catalyst and it's really a driver, and it can further be differentiated into two components. So you have your speed of aging, how fast you're accumulating age-related damage, and then the resultant product, which is age-related damage. And there's actually no universally agreed upon theory of what aging actually is. And it's still being studied, and more discoveries and hypotheses are coming out every day. And so you really have to take it from a bird's eye view and realize that there are certain parts of biological aging, major parts, that you don't want. And no one would ever say healthy cancer. When people say healthy aging, they're usually referring to chronological aging, healthy chronological aging, which people do want. But no one wants to have normal aging that leads to their decline and decrease in their functionality, and in turn, their demise. So what actually drives this fundamental process? There were 9 hallmarks discovered about a decade ago, the hallmarks of aging. And more recently, a few more hallmarks were discovered, and there'll probably be a few more that are discovered down the road. But really, there is a lack of turnover being done in an elder. You can see the numbers here. For example, a young cell might have turnover of, say, 50%, while an old cell could have turnover of 2%. And so you got to think about all the organs of the body, right? So first of all, you have 78 plus organs. Each organ has multiple types of cells, usually. And so each one of those cells is going to have a different turnover rate. For example, your skin is going to turn over faster than your brain cells. Your brain cells are much longer lived. And so really, you can think about, on average, the turnover of, say, a kidney cell in someone who's 95 is going to be slower than someone who's, say, 20. And the damage would actually be higher for that person who's 95. So without micromanaging our biology, if we can alter the amount of damage in each cell, and we can fundamentally revert back the turnover rate across the human body, we can definitely make a dramatic difference in extending health span by multiple decades. And just so we can have clarity on what health span is, it's the number of years that you spend in good health, right? So say you're going to die at 100. Do you want to spend those last 20 years, say from 80 to 100, in a wheelchair, or do you want to spend them on the beach, walking, hiking, and spending time with your family? And so regardless of if someone is an advocate of extending lifespan, um, the mass majority of people do want to extend health span. And so when we target aging and we intend to reverse human aging, we are targeting both lifespan and health span. So, really now with the tools of today, we actually can do more than people think. This is the curve, your probability of death. And you can see around the age 80, it really becomes a very, very steep line towards increasing your probability of death and really decreasing your functionality, right? Your ability to walk, your ability to get up and go from a sitting position to a standing position. And so we really want to change this curve. And in the near term, we really want to flatten it. And you could think of maybe if you still have a 20% chance of death from 80 to 110, rather than it becoming parabolic and it becoming much, much more likely to die. And really we want to have quality of life. I mean, someone 70, someone 80, someone 90, they still want to live and they still want to live good and they still want to live strong. So we want to change this paradigm. And the four horsemen of aging, this is these mythical characters that I came up with. Essentially, we have diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's. And if you can dodge all four of these, you may be able to become what's called a centenarian, someone who lives above 100. And these are the very tough diseases to avoid. There are certain things you can do to decrease your risk of all four of these. For example, exercise and nutrition. And there's more things, of course, that are detrimental that occur with aging, but these four in particular take out probably the most people in terms of any other thing on the planet, heart disease being the leader, you could see with his staff there. And this is another mythical character I came up with named Atna. And I put this together because I wanted to show that despite the fundamental challenges of reverse aging from a technical and a societal standpoint, especially from a complexity standpoint, it's very, very complex in terms of the biology involved. We are still thinking with our brains and looking at these problems, and really we're in this biological range area here. And so that is a certain level of intelligence, and you could compare, say, an ant versus a chimpanzee versus a human, and it's all going to be in that biological range there at the bottom of this long stairs. And so we're at a pivotal point because we are now baby steps away from super intelligence. And really this paradigm shift between narrow artificial intelligence to artificial general intelligence is happening now. And I believe ChatGPT or GPT-4 actually represents a shift from narrow AI to general AI. Now, a lot of people have various definitions of what general artificial intelligence is, but I believe that ChatGPT can do more than one thing, and that's the key. Now, it might not be at human level, that would be debatable, but it does appear that these computer systems are going to surpass humans. And when they do, they will take off and become substantially smarter. And so Nick Bostrom came up with his theory of superintelligence. And once we have this entity, which we should have soon, likely over the next few decades, maybe this decade, it's always possible, this entity will be able to effectively reverse human aging very easily if it wants to, of course. That's one of the issues. Will it have any incentive to help humans at that point? So let's jump into the actual multi-step rejuvenation protocol. I wanted to give a little background first so we know what we're doing and why we're doing it and the core motivations. So here's the Ageless Protocol, right? We want to alter the aging trajectory of all overlapping organ systems and organs. So we have over 11 organ systems of the human body, and they're overlapping. You can think of how if you have an issue with your skeletal system, how that could affect your muscular system, for example, right? If you broke a bone, you may not be able to lift weights, which in turn your muscle could decrease. That could decrease your circulation and so on. And so the idea with this protocol is we want to target all of the organ systems and all of the organs. And in turn, I believe we'll be able to extend health span by multiple decades, 20 to 30 years or more for someone who's already over 65. And so with current tools or tools that are really close on the horizon, I believe we can do this now. And so that means if someone was going to say it's a 75-year-old and they were on the path to maybe pass away at 80, if they do this protocol, they could make it to their hundreds and they could make it healthy to their hundreds. And down the road, we'll be able to break this barrier of 120, around 120, which has been about the maximum human that has ever lived on record. And so we want to utilize both rejuvenation and replacement. There's this back and forth, do we want to replace things of the body or do we want to rejuvenate them? And I remain agnostic regarding that as long as the function goes either back to how it was when you were young or increases dramatically to be effectively better in all ways. So let's go through these steps. We have first measurement, right? We measure the human body extensively. You have 78 plus organs. We want to measure everything. We want to come up with an approximation of biological age for every single organ of the body. Now let's think about the heart. The heart has a certain anatomical structure. It beats a certain way, pumps a certain amount of blood in and out of each chamber. And at the end of the day, if you took someone who was 10 years old versus 20 years old, 30 years old, versus someone who's 90 years old, you can see not only structural differences of those hearts, but also functional differences. And we all know this, that someone who's a highly athletic athlete can, have a better heart than someone who's 105. And so we want to be able to quantify that. We want to be able to measure that very robustly. We want it to be objective. And we do that across every single part of the body. And these are some of the methods to do that. We would do that with blood-based biomarkers. We would do that with biosignals like brain signals. Your muscle puts off electrical signals as well. And we combine those with MRI and phenotypic biomarkers like how much muscle mass you have, hair color, and so on, with functional tests, which is something we really care about. Can we get up? Can we walk? Can we run? And these things are very important. And with this, we can have an approximation of biological age across the 78 plus organs of the human body. Step two. And so again, for step one, we're taking measurements of this person. Say it's someone who's 70, just as an example. Step two, we bring in college athletes, let's say between 21 and 24, and we measure them extensively. We want to have a very, very clear map of what youthful biomarkers look like. And at that point, we can create a differential between the elder or the elder group that we're reverting back in time to the younger group who is highly athletic college athletes. And we're talking about the best of the best, that dancer, football player, baseball player, and so on. Then we take each biomarker and we want to build a database. And with that database, we would mark a 1 for biomarkers that can be, call it reversed with low risk, and a 0 for those that have high risk. I give 2 examples here. Grip strength, for example, with exercising, say, a 70-year-old could increase their grip strength with fairly low risk. Of course, there's always some risk from lifting weights, but they could do that, and they could likely increase their grip strength. Something with higher risk might be trying to target senescent cells, since senescent cells in general are the key weapon the body uses against cancer. So if you start tinkering with that with different therapeutics or different interventions, there could be more risk there. So we want to know across a wide variety of biomarkers which ones can be easily targeted and which ones are going to be a little bit harder. The ones that can be easily targeted, we can start with right away. And the ones that can be are harder to target with some risk, we'll have to be a little bit more clever on how to actually perform the reversal there. We'll also collect blood, stool, saliva, and so on to use either as donations for transfers into the elders as applicable that we'll go into, or just to build this map that I'm describing. Then we go into the next step, right? So I call this the initialization method. This is our proprietary ageless method, and this is going to prepare the mind and the body to be more responsive to interventions. At the end of the day, your body has an electrical pattern surrounding it, and we can copy this pattern of youth, and we can begin to remap this using AI and using a wide variety of tools onto an older body. And in turn, it's going to prepare the cells, get them to be more responsive to additional interventions. And this is a key element. I won't go into the underlying tech for that, something we're working on. And yeah, so we'll keep going. So the next step, after the body's been prepared, we've taken measurements, we've prepared the body. Now we go into interventions, right? And so the first one is going to be, we remove old plasma out of the blood, and we put in some of the young plasma from the young college athletes. That young plasma is going to have a wide variety of components, including exosomes, billions, hundreds of billions of exosomes, proteins, peptides, sex-matched hormones, and minerals. And so what this does, it begins to rejuvenate the body, in particular the circulatory system. When we look at the proteome, at this point, once this step is done, that proteome should be looking much better. The human body of someone older can't produce certain proteins without additional intervention. So this is one way to bypass that current limitation and get young plasma, young proteins into the body, and exosomes and so on. And this has been done. This is done at multiple clinics in Texas. There's multiple doctors that do this, and it's effectively safe and effective. And of course, you want to do this with medical professionals. From there, you want to start to rebuild the body, right? So we're talking peptides, and we're not going to go too deep into the actual peptides that you can use, but there is a lot of them. There are multiple ways to get them into the body. And what peptides really are, it's just a chain of amino acids, right? Amino acids create peptides. Peptides effectively make up proteins. So you can start to rebuild these proteins easier. And so we want to be able to take certain peptides and transfer them through the skin using a technique called sonoporation, which uses low-level pulsed ultrasound to effectively open up and make the transdermal transfer, right, from outside the body into the body easier for these peptides. Now, some peptides you'll take orally, and there's a technique to encapsulate them with liposomal encapsulation and other techniques to target specific organs with nanoparticle carriers. And Also, collagen peptides, this is something that are pretty easily accessible on Amazon. So there's much more that goes into this, but peptides is a large component. And at this point, you want to get as many as possible to basically start to rejuvenate the body. In parallel, there's all these healthspan extension techniques that we more or less already know is going to help someone to become more fit and to increase their functionality, right? So it goes in levels though. So exercise, I mean, someone could be very sedentary and barely walking. And so, this is something that you would want to do to take it to like a whole nother level, to strengthen the wrist, to strengthen the elbows, the knees, the ankles, and so on. And that's where the Ageless workout comes in. And you can find some of that on my website, as well as our lifestyle guide. And then, of course, the Ageless diet as well. We won't go into it now, but this can get pretty dense on what to eat, using food effectively as medicine and to rejuvenate and repair the body. There's a few other techniques that can be used as well, like intermittent fasting, augmented, so taking certain compounds with that, and a few other things there. Then we want to increase oxygen and nitric oxide. This has already been shown to be effective in people, and this is with different machines and equipment. Some people like a hyperbaric oxygen therapy and so on. Nitric oxide as well. There's a lot of evidence behind all these things too. So next we have the ultrasound mediated gene therapies. And so what this is going to do is, now gene therapies have been around for many years. They're used for specific diseases. And there's a lot of these gene therapies that are now coming into existence. In particular, this one that can use a very special delivery system, ultrasound mediated. It can then have a very effective transfer into the cell. You can see in this picture here that, we have this cell that basically opens up for this information that now can be read by the other processes of the body. So it's very effective, and this is going to be something that's widely used in the future. From there, we start the replacement component where we start replacing ketones, getting them in the body, and then we replace certain hormones. We actually would want to do the precursors rather than taking something like testosterone. You could take the precursors of testosterone like DHEA and pregnenolone to effectively boost the amount of testosterone, estrogen, and so on in the body, as well as your ketones. Next, we have non-invasive interventions like photobiomodulation, red light therapy, bioelectric modulation, low-level laser therapy, electrical muscle stimulation. These are all things that can be done today, and they're getting better. They're getting better, and more evidence is coming into existence behind these things, and we're learning more how to use these tools. And so within the Ageless Protocol, we have a very specific set of equipment that's calibrated in a certain way. Just want to give a high-level overview because these would be used to make a significant difference in the rejuvenation process. Step 11, we have thermomechanical ablation, and this is a technique to effectively rejuvenate the skin. It uses both heat and mechanical tension to basically stimulate collagen and effectively repair the skin. And there's multiple devices that exist today that can do this. Then we have the FMT, the fecal microbiota transplantation. We get stool from the college athletes. We take that and we create essentially, we use it as a donation, and we take that and we implant it, usually orally through like pills, supplements, into the elder. And so we basically want to rejuvenate their microbiome, which is a huge area that needs to be rejuvenated. There are more small organisms in and around your body than there are cells in your body. It's pretty fascinating. And step 13, we are getting close here, but there's actually many more steps that will occur in both with tools that exist today and with tools that will be invented tomorrow. And so this is just one example, one technique to potentially rejuvenate the eyes. There's been some success in mice for this with using a new technique called partial cellular reprogramming. And this has a lot of potential. And we have specific methodologies and techniques to effectively rejuvenate every single organ of the body with tools that we can sort of wrap our head around, but some of them don't yet exist. So in the long term, we really want to take someone and bring them all the way back from 95 all the way back to 25, let's say. And, like I said, in the short term, it's about just extending those good years, that 85-year-old that is still going on hikes, still with their family, still enjoying life, not having risk of the 4 horsemen, right? And in getting to what's called longevity escape velocity, which is a moment in time when 1 year passes, your remaining life expectancy goes up a year. So these are really the long-term goals, finally increasing that mental acuity, maintaining that eyesight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, functionally improving all of those. Significant difference in skin and muscle. We're looking for something significant, dramatic, not something incremental or very subjective. We're looking for something transformational, and that's what I believe this protocol will do, even with today's technology. And with tomorrow's, with AI, I do believe we'll get to these long-term goals, and I don't think it's going to be centuries off. I think we'll be able to do it, but it does take time, and obviously we need money to do that. And so I hope you see my website. I hope you enjoyed this. Follow us on social media. Look at our products online. Purchase our supplements. Purchase our Ageless Lifestyle Guide. And I have a coaching service as well. There's a lot of things out there, and I want to help people to get to this this next phase where they can live much, much healthier and much better and longer. Thank you, and hope you all have an amazing day. Live long and age less.